Welcome to becoming a data-driven agency using Google Forms and Google Sheets to deliver data-driven instruction. Jose, thank you for sharing with us today.
Thank you, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here to present this presentation. I was telling Asker that um, I like this so much that it's kind of difficult for me to present because I need to cut down in what I'm presenting so I don't get too excited showing stuff and things like that. Um, but with that being said, before we even begin, there's a couple of things I wanted to talk about. Number one, we have technical support that's available to assist adult education providers and professionals. You could sign up for the technical support session here. We will share the slides after the presentation, so you could schedule your session if you have any additional questions on anything that we're presenting today, or any other programs that we'll be covering. We also have the digital ATDN on-demand videos app that offers short curated videos on the programs agencies use. You could click on this link here and you could access tutorials on Google, Nearpod, Screencastify, and more. We will be adding some things with Google Sheets here, some basic formulas and things like that. So that won't be available when you receive it, but it's something that we'll be working on as well. Something to look forward to. We also have the ATDN and digital ATDN newsletters. They are distributed monthly and provide information about current programming, important updates pertaining to the adult education field, as well as highlight any new projects on the horizon. It's a great way to stay informed. You have links to both ATDN CT and digital ATDN CT. So in the first week of the month, ATDN sends theirs, and then the second Thursday of the month, digital ATDN sends a newsletter. We also have two upcoming professional development sessions for October. The first one is Google Classroom, the basics and beyond. We have Mary Kate presenting for this one. These are clickable links. Once you click on it, it will take you there. This one is Tuesday, October 18th from 3 to 4. And we have Stepping Out of Your Comfort Zone, Introducing Technology into Your Classroom. This is from Brianna Paterka, which is here in the chat today. And this one will be on Friday, October 28th from 2 to 3 p.m. Okay, and with that, let's get started. So the goals and objectives for today, it's to implement tools and strategies to simplify how you collect data in Google Forms and then analyze the data in Google Sheets. We're going to identify the purpose of using Google Forms and what information you would like to collect, assign categories to questions and items to make them searchable, freeze rows to keep the data always visible in Google Sheets, filter information in different ways, use the count if formula to quantify recurring data in Google Sheets, and format cells with conditional formatting to help identify data trends. So as our first activity, how do we use data? This is a Jamboard activity, and we will share our responses to the following questions. One would be, what do we look for when we use data? The second question is, what tools do we use? Oh, typo there. What tools do we use to collect data? And number three would be, what would we like to learn in today's session? I'll share the Jamboard. Once you join the Jamboard here, what we would like to do is go here to this little post-it, the sticky note, click on it, and we could enter our answer. You could change your colors if you like right here, and we click save. You click out of the box area and then take you out, right? Take you out of there. So there you go. Yeah, We use data. There you go. So now you just need to click and drag. So everyone's gonna be stocking the stickies on top. So that's the fun part. So you could group it where there you go. Give it a minute or two. So we have in how do we use data, right? We use data to inform instruction. Tops Pro data, yes, that's a good one. There's a lot of information there we could get. Identify trends. We look for trends in the data to determine class offerings. Good. We use data to drive instruction. Move this over here so I can delete my hello. Laces. Yes. So what tools do you like to use? Okay, so we have exit tickets, Google Sheets, Google Forms. We have created student surveys in Google Forms. Do you want to attend summer school? Yes, yeah, good. In Laces, awesome. This will be up. So as the presentation goes, if you want to add anything, you can. I would like to learn how to use digital tools with students who have limited tech access. Oh, okay. Look forward to learning how to freeze parts of a worksheet so that headings are always visible, etc. Okay, awesome. Okay, so I'll close this for now. What we'll do is we can visit it at the end and see any additional things going on. Thank you everyone for sharing today. So I always like to start presentations, and I know we started with the introduction, right? With an analogy. The reason why I like analogies, it gives us a way to look at things at a different scenario, but with the same kind of mindset with what or skill set that we're trying to use today. And for this one, I'm going to one of my favorite ones, which is the roadmap. And here it's a roadmap, but not quite there yet. So there are three things we need to ask in order to begin our roadmap. Either we're going to, we're planning a trip or we're trying to go somewhere. We're looking at GPS, right? So number one is what is the destination? Where are we going? We need to know where we are. And number three, what path are we going to take? And with this in mind and how we're jumping into the data, we find ourselves in a similar situation when we work with data. So the first thing, what do we want to know? That's our destination. Where are what is our goal with the data we're trying to collect? What is the purpose of that data? How is it going to help us to reach the goal that we're looking for? Number two, what do we already know? And this is where we are. We have a long road here that goes, kind of not really down, but it goes sideways and then goes back up. Where are we in this area? What information do we already know? What tools do we already use so we could get that information? Sample for that would be, we have Laces and we have Tops Pro. Those are two programs that are very, very heavy in data. Back a couple years ago, we had cars, and I used to do data downloads for that, trainings for that, which was an export. Now with Laces, you could save those custom sorts, and you don't have to do data downloads to that degree unless you're looking for different information, which Laces will still allow you to do that, as well as Tops. So knowing what we have and how we could access this will help us pave that roadmap to get to the destination. And the third question is, what am I missing to get there? The path. So this is where we plan. We plan from where we are and we plan how we're going to reach that goal. So that's going to determine our path to get to that destination. And the challenge is working with the unknown. So as we start, especially, I would say shutdown would be a good example. When we try to move online and just fully remote, we were trying to get to meet the destination as close as we could. So our path was really, it wasn't really a straight line. We wished it was, it came out that way, but we were trying to make sure that we were able to reach it. So there was certain aspects that we couldn't, certain targets that we couldn't achieve at that time. But as we continue to move forward and in collecting data and setting up processes, working with students, we start to swivel and kind of hit different angles. In these different areas, we're looking at them like checkpoints. We want to make sure that as we go towards that information, the students are still with us in that journey to reach that destination. And these checkpoints will allow us to find out how we could support students. If students are dropping off here at this point, how can we help them continue that road? One of the questions that I've I've been asked several times is like, how do I plan? How do I organize the data and think about things? And the reality is, and here are some points of like how my thought process behind it is that I plan revisions throughout the year and into the summer. And how how I work on it is the following. So the first thing I do is create a wish list of things that will make my job easier. So this would be, if I going by trimesters, if I had, let's say, if I had a count of attendance, then it will make it easier because every week I'll need to submit a count for the teachers, or I need to submit a count. I mean, a count for the office. If it's students and I'm trying to track how if they're submitting assignments, kind of finding a way where I could track the assignment submitted so I could see where, what when they're what are they not submitting and things like that. And this is just a wish list. I'm just listing all the things that would be like the ideal scenario. And then what are your time guzzlers? This is things that will take so much time for you to get. And then once you're done with it, and you look back, you need to go over again and you have to start over for the next one. So I make a list of all those things. During the year, I focus on small quality of life changes between trimesters or semesters. So here you could prioritize up to 3 tweaks to refine your data or process. At the end of the year, so if you're starting when you start in the beginning of the year, you have your plan and you analyze that throughout that first trimester. You have your wish list there. You pick 3 things that you could add if you can, up to 3. And then you repeat the rinse and repeat until trimester 3. If you did 3 for each one, that's 9 tweaks that you did to how you're collecting data, how you're doing your instruction, um, how you're getting totals or refining your procedures. That's 9 tweaks that you don't have to worry about over the summer. When you reach the summer, you make your big changes, your big adaptations, because then you need to make sure how it is affecting in a bigger picture. And I'll be showing an example for attendance um, closer to the end of the presentation that will give you some more insight with that. So before I'm jumping into Google Forms and from there going to Google Sheets, there's 2 things that I want to explain. The Google Forms, this is our first part. Look at how some of the things to keep an eye on. I will show you. There's a couple examples of what we're going to look at. Um, and then from there, we're moving into Google Sheets. These most of these resources you're going to have access to. They're going to have links in the slides, so you could click on them and you could access them on your own. if you need a specific direction of how this will look like in your agency, uh, send me an email. We could have a quick discussion about it. See how that would work. If it's things that you need help with, like the formulas, we have tech support that you could book a session for, and then you could look at how do you add that formula there so it could count how you're looking for it to count, and things like that. So you just want to make sure that that's available. We don't want to just throw this at show you all this and then you have to figure out on your own. We're here to help you. So the first part is Google Forms. So Google Forms offers many ways to collect information from surveys, signups, assessments, and more. Below is a link that includes 15 ways you can use Google Forms in the classroom. So I was looking into some of these. They have, I included the link because they have a lot of very interesting ways that this teacher presents Google Forms. But there's two that I wanted to highlight. And one was a mini social experiment. She used two articles. One was like it was like something a good news about something, and one was like bad news. And she had students select which article they wanted to pick. But them selecting the survey was part of her picking data as to why they would pick. In the way that she put it in is that they all decided to, like, or most of them decided to do like the bad news, and how people are just they they're interested more in looking at the bad stuff than the good stuff. And then she used that as a teaching moment. I think this was interesting when you present this like to students, not necessarily articles like good versus bad, but specific topics as well. Sometimes experimenting, giving students choice and see what they choose, and that could also give you data other than just what you're collecting in the form itself. Um, so I just found that interesting. The next one was learning stations, and here what she did was that she had a Google slide presentation. The Google slide presentation, she saves it as a JPEG, and she uploaded those as images for the Google form. So now what the students are submitting is through Google form. They're not submitting a Google slide, let's say specifically, but now she's able to collect the information directly in Google form, and she could analyze the data right there. So I thought that was number one, great way of you doing stations. So you could see how students are, show you how we could look for um, specific words or phrases. But it also gives them I just, the option of how you could present with Google Forms was something I didn't know, or I wasn't thinking it to that degree. So I thought that was interesting. So I included it here. They have instructions here on how you set it up, how she sets up the station, and then here you have more options. So there's three. I have a preference on three question types in Google Forms. Number one is the linear scale, which you could scale like from 1 to 5, and you get and you could like self-evaluate or self-assess how comfortable you are with certain programs or strategies, or um, how if you agree with something. But there's the multiple choice and the open-ended questions. So there's always this: should you ask in a multiple choice or an open-ended question? And when we're looking at data, there's something specific that we just need to keep in mind, because if we want to collect data, open-ended questions tend to be too broad, and it's difficult for us to really um, narrow down or categorize the data. But when it's multiple choice, it gives us that we're limiting the scope of what we're asking. So if we made a poor selection of options for the multiple choice, then the data quality that we're going to receive is low because we didn't really give out too much options for them to choose. However, if here I have a question: which one should you choose? And reality, it depends. Depends on the context, what you're trying to ask, what type of information. But if you're trying to collect the data, you could use both. You can categorize with the multiple choice questions to get a general category or theme of what you're looking for, but also ask have an open-ended question so then they can elaborate specifically what they mean. And there's an example in one of the here you go. This is the first set. In one when we jump into the Google form, I could show you. Any questions so far?
If anybody has any questions, either, I know Jose doesn't mind if you unmute yourself and ask, but if you put them in the chat, I'll pass them along as well.
Thank you, Astrid.
I
So
look
this
like
first,
you.
oh, go ahead.
I look like you because I went through the Protract link.
We're twins. Look at that.
We're twinning today. Do you like my new short haircut?
Yeah, we match and everything.
Yeah.
Um, so the first Google form here is the Distance Learning Technology Survey. This was offered last year to get information on how agencies were using technology in their agencies. So we have some basic questions here, like the name of your education program, the title. We had here a list of roles, and then we had an other. So Google offers, I think for a couple of years now, they offer the option for you to just type in a multiple choice option. But then that goes into that. If you want to do that, then it's going to give you many options as to categories, and I'll show you with a different example as we go now. We have here the types of distant learning. So here are a few options, and then we'll just select. And then here we had the online resources and learning management systems that agencies were using. Here was 19 options, which sounds like a lot. But because there's so many resources out there, we decided to keep the other option here. And what ended up happening is that when we received the surveys, there were over 71 programs being used. If we would have locked this out without this option, it would have bottlenecked the whole survey. It wouldn't be accurate data because we just didn't have enough programs, and we knew that there's so many, there's hundreds of programs out there. So leaving that other option really increased. This was choose as many as you have. So it was interesting to see the different counts for these and how agencies were using them. The reason I say how agencies were using them is that we asked here, you had 20 different resources that you put in. What online resource did you find most effective? And here they will put in whatever that program. And then the following question is, why do you consider the online resource effective? So this allowed us to see what are the skills, or why does a program, or how is a program useful for that person submitting that survey? And this was it's one of the big things that we wanted to see, because it's not necessarily the program, it's what the program offers that you find valuable. And then we had more questions here, more, select options, but we also had questions to really just add to that and just give more volume and more weight to the answers that we're collecting. So this is our first one. Ooh, okay. Let me not get sidetracked. This is not where I was trying to go. I'll move this over here. So now we have the absence tracker. This is our second Google Form example. Um, so this one, it's assists agencies in collecting and analyzing absences. So when working with this document, here it says please follow the tabs. This is based off the Google sheet. So I need to reword this a little bit. But here you have date of absence. So as a teacher, you could click here on the date. Oh, let me do preview so you guys can see it in action. You go here to date of absence. You click here on the flag. I mean the calendar, and then you have here the date that you can select. You have the student name. So I selected. Let me get Will Ferrell. We have the class. So I'm going to click on GED Class 1, Program GED, Location 4. And these will just have names, right? If you're using this as your agency, then you have the location name, you have the teacher name, I mean, the class name, and so on and so forth. Then we have the reasons for absence. So right now we have transportation. And under comments, bus schedule runs after the class, right? And I click submit, and all of a sudden, right, it's already entered. So as we go, right, and this here is the Google Form version. If we go here to responses, these are just like the basic ways that you collect a lot of the how it formats a lot of the data. So you get the dates here of all the absences that take place on the dates. You have the student names, and it gives you a breakdown. Jose's absent already twice. You have the class, so it breaks down the absences per class, the absences per program. Here you have some location absences. So if you have, there's, 3, 4, 5 locations, you could break this down so that way um, it's easier to manage in a way. Um, and there's ways that you can link to same spreadsheets. So you could have like different tabs for different Google Forms, which is like one of my favorite things. Um, you have the reasons for absences. So we here have 2 for transportation, and it gives you a breakdown. And then you have the comments. Now, with the comments, the only thing here is that this is the summary. You could look at it by by question, or you could look at it individual by submission. With this in mind, right? If we're looking at it as a summary, I love the summary of Google Form, but there's something that you get with Google Sheets that Google Form doesn't really show you. We're going to go into that. We're going to go back to the presentation and we'll jump from there. If you have any questions, feel free to share in the chat and or unmute and let me know. So Google Sheets works very similar to Microsoft Excel. You will start to see differences with Excel once you work with more advanced features. A few great ways to use Sheets to share and collect data. You have attendance, Google Form responses, list of resources with links, data exports from laces or tops, and contact information. I know there's from based on the answers in the Jamboard, everyone's at least familiar with Google Sheets or most. Um, you wouldn't see a lot of change with Excel unless you're going into very specific formulas or features. Most of the beginner to intermediate features are available. There's some that are just takes extra steps in Google Sheets, but it depends on what it is. There's a lot of stuff that you could do with Google. Um, so one of the benefits on using the exported answers or responses in Google Sheets. So one is going to allow you to manipulate the data beyond the Google form collection. So that summary that you have, it lets you just to break out and find those digital trends easier. So you could group the responses, you could create custom charts, you could add color codes and formulas to kind of handpick the specific information. And you could offer a bird's eye view. I mean, it offers a bird's eye view that helps identify digital trends in the data. So it's saying you can see from the beginning of that first question that they answered all the way down to that last one, you could see everything at a glance. And if you have color coding or you're doing those counts, you could then start to see some patterns. Oh, wait, this student is absent a lot from location one, and everything is by transportation. Sometimes the bus route doesn't run at the same time as the class, and maybe that's how you could determine that that class needs to start a half hour early to make sure that they could join. So we have here freeze rows and columns. I purposely went here and put instructions on how you could do these. So here you have, you click on the you click on the view tab, you go to freeze, you select the row or column options. And what I'll do is I'll show you different ways you could do it live, but I just want you to know that when you get these resources here, the slides, it's here. I'll tell you how to do that. These options here, one row and two rows, are just really the top two, and then the columns are the first two columns. The up two options is based on the cell that you click, and I'll show you how that changes when we go into the live document. We also have instructions here on how to sort and filter. And this is something I never found out when they added it, but I love the sort in the custom filters. So you originally have this filter option here. You just click on it, and it just filters the current uh, sheet. But if you click on the drop down, you could filter by custom filters, and these filters don't alter the order of what's in that sheet. And the way you know that you're in that sorry, that you're in that custom filter is because you'll see this black bar around the table. That means that you're in a custom filter. You could add a custom name for it, and you could add the range. So every time you add, there's more responses added in the Google form, and you have it exported already in Google Sheets. You click on it, and it'll just pick all that up and it'll sort it. So it works beautiful. That's what it saves so much time. I remember back in the day, back in data downloads times, I had to create different tabs to do those filters, or I had to color code them so that way I could see that. Here it just works it's very fluid. We have here the count if formula. I will show you in live how that looks like, but here are just the steps on how you would put that in. Um, and here's another example. There's information here, and again, I'll show you live, but um, we also have tech support that we could assist you with that as well. And we have some conditional formatting. And what I'll do is I'll show you this now so you can see it, but I'll show you live. So I'm going to click on the absence tracker as my example. This is a copy of what we have in Google Form, but this one is exclusively like in Google Sheets. But they work exactly the same. The only difference here is that you enter all the information um, manually through a different way. In the Google form, if you have multiple teachers, instead of if your concern is that multiple people are entering data, it's not necessarily teachers. It could be whoever's making the phone calls or and logging it in, and you want to make sure that no one it's editing by mistake. Then the Google form is a good way to collect all that information, and then you have the people that are working with the data work on the sheet itself. So right now, if you have, so I said the first thing we're going to do is freeze, right? Let me unfreeze so you can see what's going to happen. Let me zoom in a little bit. Okay. So if I scroll up and down, the further I scroll down, I can't see the information. So the first thing you want to do is you want to freeze this here so you always know what you're looking at. So what I do is that I click here on row 2. So here you have your column names. Here you have your row numbers. So I click on the row number. I go to view, freeze, and then here you can select 2 rows because it's the top 2. But you see here it says up to row 2 because that's the row I selected. So when I click on row 2 and I scroll down, my row is always in place, no matter how far out I go. You could do the same thing for columns. So if I wanted to keep column A and B always visible, I click on the column B, or I could click on a cell from the B column. I click on view, freeze. I go here to the column section and it says up to column B. And when I click there and I scroll to the right, as you see, these counts will always be in the front. So I can scroll all the way down to the double digits and it'll still give me that there. So that's the first thing that we want to do. The second we had was sort and filter. So there you go. To access sort, you could go right here in the bar. You'll see this little filter icon, right? Now, if you click here, oops, 1 second. Oh, come on. 1 sec. I zoom in too much and then I can't zoom back out. Okay. There you go. So right now I have filter on, right? So I'm filtering the actual data that it's being put in. I don't want to do that. So I'm just going to click on filter again. It's giving me a warning only because once I share this out, you guys have the opportunity to edit this, but it won't have the cells protected. So anything that has a formula, I just have it. If I try to delete it, it'll give you a warning that, oh, this is something that you might not want to edit. You still want to edit, and you just say yes or no. But right now, here, I want to go to the filter views, which is that bottom arrow. When I click there, I have some custom filters that are already created. So if I click on 3 or more absences, I'm now in a custom filter, and my cue for that is because I see this black bar, right? That allows me to see all the students. I have to zoom out a little bit, sorry. all the students that have 3 absences, right? So this is a countif formula that counts the first name and the class, and that if they match, that's 1. So for each time that occurs, it counts as 1 absence. If we look at row number 20, we have Apple Abates. This student has been absent 6 times in his CDP class 4. Now, if I wanted to make sure that that was correct, right? I look at all these down here. This was 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you'll get that 6 count. Now, out of those 6 absences, 5 of them. 2, 3. Oh, yeah. I'm in a filter, right? So we can't see less than 3. But 5 of them have to do with childcare. So if I head back out, I need to zoom out so I could close the filter. I go back to my original information, the data. And if I look at Apple Abates, right, here's another absence. And this is just 1 absence because for his ABE class 1, he was absent once. But you have here that in total, by reason, it's 5. So then this will allow you to take a look when you're looking at this in Google Forms. You can't see that specific information because in Google Forms, it just gives you that, how they did in that particular question. But when you're looking at it in Google Sheets, it gives you that opportunity to look at, oh, wait, what if this student answers this here and this here? How does that look like? So it gives you can make those connections so you could find more information. Now, again, you could put in information. I'm going to go into the count if, but feel free to jump in and I'll continue to explain. So right now I want to see how many times Jose shows up, right? So, and this could be with anything. I could do second, I'm zooming in too much. Okay. So I go here, I do equal sign, and you put in right now I'm putting count if. This is the formula that I'm trying to use. Google does a very good job in hinting you how do you do it. So if I do count if, and I open parentheses, 1 second. Right, let me click here. I want to see how many times Jose Adorno shows up. So I'm going to put, there's 2 ways I could do this. Well, actually, I'm going to select the cell. So I'm going to click on the cell here. And now I would like to select, well, actually I did it backwards. So I want to see in this range, right? Oh, sorry. Let me start it over. So I have count if, open parentheses. You add the range of what you're looking for. So right now I'm looking at column D. So I do D. You do the semicolon and put D, right? I'm putting 3, so it's not counting the first 2 rows. And I add the comma. And now I just want to know every time that Jose Adorno shows up. I close parentheses and I hit enter and I have 12. So right now, Jose Adorno shows up 12 times. So he has 12 absences. If I wanted to see someone else, I could change this cell. Let me go back again. I want to check Apple Abates, which is D13. There's an easier way to do this, right? And then it gives me 8. How I like to do the count diffs is that I'll put here on the side whatever value that I'm looking for. So I do count if I'm selecting the column again. And this, you don't have to do this for the, if you're using this sheet has everything in already. So you won't have to worry about that. And then you add this cell right here. So this is a blank cell. So I close it and I enter. So right now it says 0. But if I want to see how many people are absent, let's say Jose, how many times Jose is absent? It gives me 4. Bates, Apple. Oh, I did this wrong. 8. And you can just continue to do this, right? Now, right now, how this is working, and I need to zoom out again. All of this is already added here in the absence tracker report. So you have the reasons for absences with that formula already included. You have the absences by class, by program, oops, by program, and by location. So all of these are already set up with those codes in place. So the only thing that you would do if you're using this is just entering all the information. Any questions so far? I know CountIF might be a little tricky because there's some intention with it when you have to know what you're looking for in it. But a lot of the things that you'll have copy of all of these um, spreadsheets, so you don't have to edit. They're already set up for you to use. And if you need assistance with editing, I can help you with that. There is conditional formatting, and with I might choose a different one. Let me go to a different document. Okay, so this is an attendance from that I created for New Britain. Um, I still work in I still oh, 1 second. Not through digital TDN. This is a couple years ago. I work in New Britain, and so this here, right, is your attendance. So we have here student names. You have classes reading, classes and listening levels. You have the status. So status is color coded. I mean, it's conditional format. So if I click here inactive, it turns pink. If I do no show, it still turns pink. If it's active, it turns green. And then here under the attendance, the total hours, once the student hits 44 hours, that changes to green. So if I delete these 8 hours, it turns yellow. Yellow is more of a this student is already past that 12-hour mark. We want to make sure that we keep them attending so we could get to the 40 hours. And so this is a visual cue for the teacher. So as the attendance is entered, once they hit that 40, it turns green. Okay, so Doesn't mean that you need to test the student right as soon as you get to 40, but this student already meets the hours for post testing. So we need to keep an eye. If that student starts to drop out, we make sure that we try to get them before that happens. So this is a trigger for us to know, um, or for teachers to know once they're looking at the attendance, when that's going to happen. And because we have the columns frozen, if they're scrolling left and right, we always know what student we're looking for and their total hours. Okay, so I want to stop here. Any questions?
I had a quick question. Jose, it's Pam Anderson from Wallingford Adult Ed. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Good. I'm
gonna help
loving
you.
this. I'm loving this attendance sheet, by the way.
Thanks.
It's awesome. It's a thing of beauty. I'm wondering how you tell the spreadsheet to change color once it hits 40.
Okay, so that is called conditional formatting. And the way that you set that up is that I'm going to go here to this 2 hours as
Yeah.
an example. So I'm highlighting the M column. I right click and I go to conditional formatting. Sometimes it's going to be under the view more column actions. It just depends on where, I guess it reformats, right?
Okay.
But if it, so you click on conditional formatting, and by default, it's going to say, it creates one for you and it just highlights everything. So that's nothing wrong with that, right? That you click on it. And this first one is the range that you're trying to apply it to, which is what you're selecting.
Right, that whole
You
column.
could edit this. So right now, I just want it to be from from row number 12 going down. That's the first date.
Okay.
So I put 12, right? Then I go here where it says format cells if I'm going here to
Greater than, right?
Yeah. Oh, there it is. Greater than or equal to 2. This is gonna keep happening. I just protected the cells as a, so if that happened by
I
mistake.
understand that completely. Yeah.
So that way it's not like, oh my goodness, I
Yeah,
messed it up.
right.
It's just a warning message. But right now, see how it just highlighted all the
Yeah,
2s?
yep.
So you could do this with numbers, but also do this with words. So if you do um like right here, I'll click done here so you can see it complete. Um, but if I go here, I'm just hiding that one so I can show you. See how it doesn't show conditional formatting?
Yeah.
If I go here, it shows up here.
Okay.
It's depending on how it comes up. This is all the options. So value is equal to active, it turns green.
Right.
Value is equal to no show, it turns pink. And value is equal to inactive, turns pink. You could
Awesome.
choose anything you will like, but most of the time, especially when it's words, you have to do one for each word that you're looking for.
Right. Well, thank you so much because I've never really been into that conditional formatting menu. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. There is a conditional formatting here as well. So we have a messages tab. I have it linked to the messaging tab down here, and then you could see like the if a teacher posts a message in, and I'm going into the attendance, I can see the number. So once I clear it out, the way I clear it out, I just click complete. When I go back to attendance, it's not there anymore because I completed the message that or read it. I'll just check off. if you guys have a question, jump in. I could show this off quick if you like to know. Um, for the attendance one, I could zoom in. For the attendance one, you have information for the class here, right? But here, based on the hours that you enter in the attendance tab where you put the 2 hours, here it'll add them by month. So September attendance is added here, October attendance, November, and December. So we'll add it here based off what you're putting in on that sheet. So this is just like a report only one. You get to see, how many students are active in that class, inactive and no show based on those statuses that they're put in. How many students have 6 hours, 12 hours, and 40. The student that has 40 hours is that one that we saw that turned green. And then anything above 12 are those yellow students. And then you'll see that here as well. So as we wrap up with becoming a data-driven agency, there's one thing that I could say with this is that there's things that we want to plan that might not happen the way we are planning them to happen. And it happened because we're trying to figure out, if we go back to that present to that path, we're trying to move towards this way, but there's a lot of change that needs to happen in order for us to do that. So we gradually move towards there, but we want to make sure we don't add so much work that getting there is really not worth it. So that's why I say do it in increments, do those small quality of life changes, because as that frees up your time from those, because you're getting some automation from some of the things that you need to do, then you could use that time to build those other things that take more, that has more turn, or you have to kind of drive a little bit further out in order to reach. So, do the tweaks first. And then once you free up some of that time, then you could repurpose it for other, so you could keep aiming those targets that you're trying to reach. And with that, if there's any other questions, I'll hang out here a little bit if you want to talk to me or share anything. But thank you very much for coming in. It's always a pleasure to talk about anything data and anything technology. So I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.